You're listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips, where we present audiobook quality readings of the classics for your enjoyment. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, just because you're a bumpkin doesn't mean you can't be cultured. Hello and welcome to The Cultured Bumpkin. Today we're going to read a Robert Frost poem called Birches. Now, there's no birches around where I live. I'm in the deep south. They don't really grow very well down here. But I like to look at them. I think they're beautiful. And what applies to birches, in this case he describes like a little boy climbing the tree, bending it over to where it permanently bends it. That happens here on my place. Not with birches, but with other ones. I had to tell my Charlie bear to get down out of that tree the other day because he was climbing up a growing sapling and I didn't want him to break it. I said, why don't you get off of that one and go over to that one? And I pointed to a bigger one. So then he went over there and climbed the big one and didn't hurt it. But anyway, this is from my podcast. It's just basically an excerpt. It's the whole poem, but it's from my other sleep podcast, which I will link in the description and the show notes, called Ode to a Mockingbird. And it's a sleep podcast. It's what I'll do is I'll just put ambiance, like in this case, crickets or running water or rain on a tin roof, and then just read back-to-back poems from usually one author, like Robert Frost, and then just several Robert Frost poems. Lord Tennyson, several Lord Tennyson poems. So it's a little different format, but it's always chill, designed to relax and or go to sleep to. You know, it's a sleep podcast, classic literature, etc. So if you if you're interested in something like that, check the show notes for the link. But here's Birches by Robert Frost. Birches. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them loaded with ice a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many-colored as the stir cracks and crazes their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break, though once they are bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground, like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. But I was going to say, when truth broke in, with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and in to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. One by one he subdued his father's trees by riding them down over and over again, until he took the stiffness out of them, and not one but hung limp, not one was left for him to conquer. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon, and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup up to the brim and even above the brim. Then he flung outward, feet first, with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself, a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations, and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. I'd like to get away from earth a while, and then come back to it and begin over. May no fate willingly misunderstand me, and half grant what I wish, and snatch me away not to return. Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a birch tree, and climb black branches up a snow-white trunk toward heaven, till the tree could bear me no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger of birches. Wasn't that great? I like that one. I really like Robert Frost's stuff. He is just good. I just love it. Reminds me of home in a lot of ways, even though I'm not from the same part of the country. But anyway, thank you for listening. If you want to check out the Sleep podcast, Ode to a Mockingbird, definitely check out the show notes. But thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. You've been listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, would you mind going and subscribing and leaving a nice review on whatever podcast platform you heard this on? I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.